Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of Studio 501c3. I'm your host, Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. Our show features nonprofit organizations that get the 501c3 designation by the IRS because they provide a public benefit, and your donations are tax deductible in most instances. We're proud to partner with Montgomery Community Media on Studio 501c3 to highlight the fantastic nonprofit programs and services in Montgomery County. MCM is your public resource that provides access to information relevant to our community. My co-host today is Matt Freeman, a public relations consultant for nonprofits. Matt also serves on the board of the Nonprofit Village.
Thank you, Kim. It is great to be with you and to learn more about our guests and their organizations. Serving on the board of the Nonprofit Village has been a real privilege for me because of all the work it does to help nonprofits, providing nonprofit management programs, back office services, and affordable shared space.
So today we welcome Grace Cho, the Executive Director of New Orchestra of Washington, otherwise known as NOW, a nonprofit that works to make music relevant to new generations of audiences through performances that combine a diversity of genres. Grace, thanks so much for joining us in Studio 501c3.
Thank you for having me.
So talk to us a little bit about why now and the relevant issue, how you're making this music relevant to new generations.
So music is it's a human necessity, you know. It's an expression of who we are. And however, the way music has been presented to the general public, especially the classical orchestral music, has been unchanged more or less in the past 200 years. And the world has changed rapidly since then. So we do want to perform the works, you know, the great Beethoven symphonies and Copland's symphonies, but we decided that we want to actually try to be different in the way that we represent these concerts, the programming and the venues, and most of all the way the organization is operated, and so that's why we sort of come up with this idea of a chamber orchestra that that does interesting programming, not just because we play pieces that are interesting, but more or less each program is sort of a narrative that connects from top to bottom, from the beginning of the concert to the end. And we often present these programs at a very interesting venues, such as the AMP by Strathmore. We do concerts, and our annual concert of celebration of Dia de los Muertos at the Mexican Cultural Institute. Those are interesting venues that people want to go to, experience music in a new light.
And I saw on your website once when I was looking, there was a program at, I think, the DuPont Underground?
DuPont Underground, that's another venue that we've been to, and it is literally underground,
right. DuPont Circle,
like an
right?
old train station that has been transformed into a venue.
Yeah. So it really is unique venues.
Right.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to appeal to the new generation of audiences. I'm sure every organization is trying in their own ways, and we're one of them.
And your orchestra is a little bit smaller too than what you might see as a traditional orchestra.
So we're not what we call symphonic orchestra. So we're chamber orchestra in that we're smaller size. We do a lot of similar repertoire, but simply because of the flexible and smaller size, that we are able to actually more or less go to the audience, go to interesting venues. If we were a 100-piece orchestra, there would be only so many venues that we can actually go to.
You wouldn't fit in DuPont Underground.
Or it would be pretty tight.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And another thing about that smaller size is that because then we go to smaller venues where the distance between the orchestra and the audience is relatively much smaller, that there is increasing interest an attraction to attend a classical live performance. Because there is definitely, I think, the reason why people want to go to a live performance rather than listening to your favorite song on radio. And there's the spark that happens only at that moment, where you can literally hear the breath of a cellist before the bow goes down. You cannot hear that on a CD or iTunes. Nobody listens to CD anymore.
And then it's there for that
it's
moment,
gone.
and then it's gone.
It's that moment. And I think it's increasingly more important value when everything is so digitized, easily repeatable, and easily put on hold, and you can do other things and come back, which are great convenience, but we also value the real time, the real thing, the thing that happens.
They're also hearing it with other people, the same, as opposed to just in their ear. With one person,
Yeah. And we can repeat the same program next day, but the moment only lasts at that time, at that shared moment.
So it must pose some interesting musical challenges to take pieces that were written for symphonic orchestras and play them for a chamber orchestra.
Yeah, there are things that we can actually do it with a smaller string section, and there are pieces that we actually have to re-orchestrate. And we do a lot of re-instrumentation, re-orchestration. Sometimes we will find those reworked pieces out there. Sometimes we do it in-house. Also, we do commission a lot of new works.
So is that where some of the innovation comes in? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so that, perhaps more and more groups can adopt our model to reach out to the community rather than waiting in a big gigantic hall and waiting for people to come into you.
I wanted to say before we get ready to go to break, your performances are also affordable.
Yes,
they're affordable and accessible to a larger audience of people because of their affordability. So
we don't have $100 tickets, and the most expensive seat usually is about $40, $45. But we also do, it goes down to $10, $15. So it is definitely, if you're interested in seeing us, resources shouldn't be the problem.
Well, that's my price range. So we'll talk more about the new Orchestra of Washington, how it uses diverse music genres and fresh interpretations of the classics to win new audiences when we come back.
You're watching Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media. Stay with us. Welcome back to Studio 501c3, your window into Montgomery County's premier nonprofit organizations. I'm Kim Jones, along with Matt Freeman, and we're talking today to Grace Cho of the new Orchestra of Washington. Thanks so much for being with us again.
It's my pleasure.
So I wanted to go back to something that I think you had offered a collaboration in the past where you worked with a yoga instructor and had a performance of the classics, and people could interactively participate. I thought that was a very innovative and unique type of activity. So tell us how you do some of those other collaborations and what other types of organizations you work with. Yes,
so in this age we cannot survive and thrive alone. It takes a village, like nonprofit village. So we've done a lot of collaborations, and we try to do it in the most interesting ways that people don't necessarily see easily. And so the yoga collaboration, we call it Namaste. It's one of those examples. We do a restaurant collaboration too, where we pair sort of culinary arts with musical arts. And Namaste, in
so
case
how does
of
the restaurant, so are you going through courses?
Yeah, you go through courses and musical program. And the good thing about it is that you can you have time to digest each course. So
to speak.
While you eat, you digest the music you listen to, and then while you listen to the music, you digest the food. So there is like a digestion happening in a physical and mental level. And Namaste is also sort of yoga or meditation done while there is a live performance happening. And because I think the benefit of music is not just an enjoyment of listening to beautiful music, but there's so many more. You know, it helps you to stay focused, perhaps find that state of mind that is not come very often in this busy, highly distracted society. And we wanted to actually help people reach that through things like Namaste, but which is also the true case in the general concert setting, where you know, listening through a Beethoven symphony the last 30 minutes and without a lot of visual distraction, sometimes you're asked to reach a certain state of mind, and you will actually get the most out of the concert experience if you can reach that state of mind. So it's beneficial on both ends. As a concert organizer, we want people to be comfortable reaching that place where you are hyper-focused. And I think nowadays people want to be in that place where your everyday life is so busy and multitask.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
So in the minute or so that we have left, I want to take us from the ethereal to the brass tacks. How are you guys funded?
yeah, so well, we're funded by a lot of our funding comes from the county. We're grateful and lucky to be able to be incorporated in a place where the government funding is generous and proactive. And then we have foundations, private foundations that help us, and general individual donations. And we have an amazing group of board of directors who also are very proactive in fundraising on their own, and also bringing funds from their network.
And you have
Tickets,
your
right?
ticket
And
sales.
our ticket sales.
So you actually have some earned income.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. So that's all the time we have today, but I really appreciate all this information. I think we have learned a lot, and our audience members will have learned a lot. I want to thank Matt Freeman for guest hosting, and we also thank Grace Cho, Executive Director of the new Orchestra of Washington. For more information, visit their website at neworchestraofwashington.org.
And we hope you'll tune in for another episode of Studio 501c3, your window on nonprofits in Montgomery County. I'm Matt Freeman.
And I'm Kim Jones, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Village. We'll see you next time on Studio 501c3 on Montgomery Community Media.